What if everything you've been told about building mental toughness is not just incomplete, but actually keeping you mentally weak? In the next few minutes, I'm going to share something that might sound counterintuitive at first, but by the end, you'll understand why your greatest battles aren't fought against external enemies, but within the landscape of your own mind. The people who possess true warrior mindset know something that separates them from those who merely talk about mental toughness. They understand that authentic strength isn't built through aggression or force, but through a profound inner transformation that most people completely miss. What I'm about to reveal will challenge everything you think you know about what it means to be mentally strong, and by the time we're finished, you'll possess the blueprint for developing the kind of unshakable inner fortress that no external circumstance can penetrate. Have you noticed how the harder you try to become mentally tough, the more fragile you actually feel inside? There's something happening beneath the surface that most of us miss because we're focused on appearing strong rather than actually becoming strong. We've been conditioned to believe that warrior mindset means being aggressive, dominating others, and never showing vulnerability. But this approach creates a fundamental problem that keeps us trapped in cycles of inner weakness disguised as outer strength. Picture this. You're facing a challenging situation at work. Your boss criticizes your performance in front of colleagues. The fake warrior mindset tells you to get angry, defend yourself aggressively, or shut down emotionally to appear unaffected. You might even succeed in looking tough on the outside, but inside, you're burning with shame, anger, and hurt. You go home carrying this emotional weight, snapping at family members, or numbing yourself with distractions. This is the exhausting cycle of false strength, a performance that drains your energy and leaves you feeling more vulnerable than before. The real issue isn't that you lack toughness. The real issue is that you've been taught to build walls instead of foundations. You've been trained to react rather than respond, to resist rather than flow, to fight everything instead of choosing your battles wisely. True warrior mindset isn't about becoming harder, it's about becoming more resilient, like a tree that bends with the storm but never breaks. Most people approach mental strength like they're trying to build armor, thick, heavy protection that they carry everywhere. But armor is exhausting to wear and limits your movement. Real warriors throughout history understood something different. They developed inner stability that allowed them to remain calm in chaos, clear in confusion, and centered in crisis. They weren't trying to become invulnerable, they were learning to be anti-fragile. The deeper root cause of mental weakness isn't external circumstances or other people. It's our relationship with discomfort, uncertainty, and our own inner landscape. We've been taught to avoid pain, to fear failure, and to control outcomes. This creates a fragile mindset that crumbles the moment life doesn't go according to plan. True warrior mindset is built on the opposite foundation, embracing discomfort as growth, welcoming uncertainty as adventure, and finding strength in letting go of what we cannot control. Think about water flowing around rocks in a river. The water doesn't fight the obstacles, it finds a way through, over, or around them. It's persistent without being rigid, powerful without being destructive, and it always finds its way to the ocean. This is the nature of authentic warrior mindset, fluid strength that adapts without compromising its essential nature. When you observe people with genuine mental strength, you notice something profound. They don't need to prove their toughness to anyone. They don't react to every provocation or feel compelled to win every argument. Instead, they possess a quiet confidence that comes from knowing they can handle whatever life presents. They've learned to work with their natural rhythms rather than against them. The questions that truly matter are these. What if mental toughness isn't about becoming harder, but about becoming more flexible? What if true strength comes not from avoiding your emotions, but from developing a different relationship with them? What if the warrior path isn't about conquering others, but about mastering yourself? When you begin to explore these questions honestly, something shifts inside you. You start to glimpse what authentic warrior mindset actually looks like, and it's probably nothing like what you've been taught to believe. Let me tell you about Miyamoto Musashi, one of history's greatest warriors, who discovered the secret of true mental strength not through aggression but through profound inner work. During his early years, Musashi was exactly what most people think a warrior should be: fierce, aggressive, and determined to prove his superiority through combat. He won duel after duel, building a reputation as an undefeated swordsman. But despite his external success, he felt increasingly empty and agitated inside. The turning point came during a period of isolation in a mountain cave. For months, Musashi practiced not just sword techniques, but meditation, calligraphy, and deep self-reflection. He began to understand that his greatest enemy wasn't any external opponent. It was his own ego, his attachment to winning, and his fear of being seen as weak. Through this inner work, he developed what he called no mind, a state of calm awareness that allowed him to respond to any situation with perfect timing and appropriate action. When Musashi emerged from his retreat, people noticed something different about him. He still possessed incredible skill, but his energy had completely transformed. Instead of the aggressive, prove-myself attitude of his youth, he radiated a calm confidence that was far more powerful than any show of force. His opponents often felt defeated before the duel even began, not because he intimidated them, but because his presence reflected such complete inner mastery that resistance felt futile. This reveals the fundamental principle of authentic warrior mindset. True strength flows from inner peace, not inner conflict. While most people exhaust themselves fighting internal battles against their own thoughts and emotions, the real warrior learns to observe these inner movements with detached awareness. They don't try to eliminate fear, anger, or doubt. They develop the capacity to feel these emotions without being controlled by them. Like a mountain that remains unmoved by storms raging around its peaks, authentic warrior mindset provides a stable foundation that allows you to remain centered regardless of external circumstances. This isn't passive resignation or emotional numbness, it's active engagement from a place of inner strength. When you're not constantly defending yourself from your own inner experience, you have tremendous energy available for creative action and meaningful contribution. Here's what transforms everything about building mental strength. Authentic warrior mindset is developed through surrender, not conquest. This insight completely reverses how most people approach mental toughness, and it's the key that unlocks genuine inner power. Let me tell you about Sarah, a high-achieving executive who came to understand this principle through personal crisis. For years, she had built her identity around being the toughest person in every room. She worked longer hours than anyone, never admitted weakness, and prided herself on pushing through any obstacle through sheer force of will. Her career was successful, but her personal life was falling apart. She was exhausted, isolated, and despite all her achievements, felt fundamentally insecure. The breaking point came during a particularly stressful project. Sarah's usual approach of working harder and pushing through wasn't working. The more she tried to control the situation, the more chaotic it became. In desperation, she tried something completely different. Instead of fighting the uncertainty and stress, she began to work with it. She acknowledged her fears instead of hiding them, asked for help instead of pretending she had all the answers, and focused on responding wisely rather than reacting quickly. The results were remarkable. Not only did the project succeed, but Sarah discovered a completely different way of being strong. She learned that true power comes not from controlling everything, but from being fully present with whatever is happening. She found that acknowledging vulnerability actually increased people's trust in her leadership, and that admitting when she didn't know something opened space for creative solutions she never would have discovered alone. This reveals the deeper principle. Authentic warrior mindset is built on acceptance, not resistance. While the false warrior fights reality and exhausts themselves trying to force outcomes, the true warrior learns to dance with circumstances, finding strength in flexibility and power in presence. Most people approach mental toughness like they're trying to build a fortress, thick walls to keep everything dangerous outside. But fortresses can become prisons, and walls that keep threats out also keep life out. Real warrior mindset is more like developing the skills of a master sailor who doesn't try to control the ocean but learns to work skillfully with winds and currents to reach any destination. Consider how a tree develops strength. It doesn't grow by fighting against wind and storms, but by developing deep roots and flexible branches. The deeper the roots, the more the tree can bend without breaking. Similarly, authentic mental strength comes from developing deep inner stability that allows you to move gracefully with life's challenges rather than being rigidly resistant to them. The counterintuitive truth is that the more willing you are to feel your emotions fully, the less power they have to control you. The more honest you are about your limitations, the more resourceful you become in transcending them. The more you accept what you cannot control, the more effective you become at influencing what you can. This understanding transforms every aspect of how you approach challenges. Instead of seeing obstacles as enemies to defeat, you begin to see them as training partners that help you develop greater capacity. Instead of viewing emotions as weaknesses to overcome, you recognize them as information and energy that can guide wise action. Instead of trying to eliminate uncertainty, you learn to find excitement in not knowing what comes next. True warrior mindset isn't about becoming invulnerable, it's about becoming anti-fragile. It's the difference between a rigid structure that breaks under pressure and a living system that grows stronger through appropriate challenges. When you understand this distinction, everything changes about how you develop mental strength. The foundation of authentic warrior mindset rests on 4 pillars that work together to create unshakable inner strength. Unlike traditional approaches that focus on external toughness, these foundations address the deeper aspects of mental resilience that allow you to thrive in any circumstance. True mental strength begins with developing the capacity to observe your inner landscape without being swept away by it. This isn't about controlling your thoughts and emotions, but about cultivating the awareness that allows you to witness them clearly. Think of yourself as a scientist studying the weather patterns of your own mind. You notice when storm clouds of anger gather, when fog of confusion rolls in, or when clear skies of peace naturally emerge. Most people live at the mercy of their mental and emotional weather, reacting unconsciously to every inner shift. The warrior develops the capacity to observe these patterns with curious detachment. This doesn't mean becoming cold or disconnected, quite the opposite. When you're not constantly fighting your inner experience, you can respond to it with intelligence and compassion. Practice this by taking 3 conscious breaths several times throughout your day. During these breaths, simply notice what's happening inside you without trying to change it. Are there tension patterns in your body? What's the general quality of your thoughts? What emotions are present? This simple practice develops the foundation of all mental strength, conscious awareness of your inner state. The warrior understands that emotions are like waves in the ocean, natural movements that arise and pass away. You don't have to be afraid of anger, sadness, or fear any more than a surfer is afraid of waves. Instead, you learn to read the emotional currents and respond appropriately. Sometimes this means taking action, sometimes it means waiting, and sometimes it means simply allowing the feeling to move through you without resistance. Once you've developed inner awareness, the next foundation involves learning to act from your deepest values rather than your immediate impulses. The false warrior reacts quickly and aggressively, often creating more problems than they solve. The authentic warrior takes time to discern the most skillful response and acts from a place of centered wisdom. This doesn't mean being passive or indecisive. True warrior action can be swift and decisive, but it flows from clarity rather than reactivity. Before taking any significant action, especially in challenging situations, pause and ask yourself, what response would align with my highest values? What action would I respect myself for taking regardless of the outcome? Aligned action also means understanding the difference between effort and strain. Natural effort feels sustainable and energizing, even when it's challenging. Strain feels forced and depleting. The warrior learns to recognize this difference and adjust their approach accordingly. Sometimes the most powerful action is stepping back, waiting, or choosing not to engage. Consider how a martial artist moves. There's tremendous power in their actions, but it flows naturally rather than being forced. They don't waste energy on unnecessary movements or hold tension in areas that don't need it. This is the quality of aligned action: powerful, efficient, and sustainable. Perhaps the most challenging aspect of developing authentic warrior mindset in our instant gratification culture is learning to trust natural timing. The false warrior wants immediate results and often abandons practices before they have time to take root. The true warrior understands that genuine strength develops gradually, like a tree growing deep roots before reaching toward the sky. Patient cultivation doesn't mean passive waiting. It means consistently showing up for the practices that develop inner strength, even when you don't see immediate results. It means trusting the process of growth rather than constantly measuring your progress against external standards. This foundation also involves developing comfort with uncertainty. The warrior doesn't need to know exactly how things will unfold. They trust their capacity to respond skillfully to whatever emerges. This comfort with not knowing is actually a tremendous source of power because it allows you to remain open to possibilities that you might miss if you're rigidly focused on predetermined outcomes. Think of a master gardener who plants seeds and tends the soil with patient attention, trusting that growth will occur in its own time. They don't dig up the seeds every day to check their progress. They create optimal conditions and allow nature to work. This is how authentic mental strength develops, through consistent cultivation and patient trust in the process. The final foundation involves learning to express your authentic nature with confidence and appropriate boundaries. The false warrior either suppresses their true self to appear invulnerable or expresses themselves aggressively without consideration for others. The authentic warrior learns to be genuinely themselves while remaining sensitive to the needs of each situation. Natural expression means speaking your truth without attacking others, setting boundaries without building walls, and showing vulnerability without becoming a victim. It's the integration of strength and sensitivity, power and compassion. This requires developing what martial artists call soft power, influence that comes from authentic presence rather than force or manipulation. When you're expressing naturally, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Your presence communicates your strength more effectively than any aggressive display ever could. People feel safe around you because they sense that you're comfortable with yourself and not trying to take anything from them or prove anything to them. This foundation also involves learning to receive as well as give. The warrior understands that true strength includes the capacity to accept help, acknowledge mistakes, and learn from others. Pride that prevents receiving actually indicates weakness, not strength. The most powerful people are often the most humble because they're secure enough in themselves to acknowledge what they don't know. These four foundations work together synergistically. Inner awareness provides the foundation for aligned action. Patient cultivation allows natural expression to emerge authentically. When all four are developed together, they create a sustainable form of mental strength that actually grows stronger through appropriate challenges rather than being depleted by them. Building authentic warrior mindset requires consistent daily practices that strengthen your inner foundation while developing practical skills for navigating life's challenges. These aren't complicated techniques that require hours of time. They're simple, powerful practices that can be integrated into your existing routine. Begin each day with 5 minutes of conscious breathing before checking your phone or engaging with external demands. Sit quietly and take slow, deep breaths while setting an intention for how you want to show up in the world today. This isn't about planning your activities, but about connecting with the quality of presence you want to embody. Ask yourself, how do I want to respond to whatever challenges arise today? What warrior qualities do I want to cultivate? Perhaps it's patience with difficult people, courage in facing uncomfortable conversations, or resilience when plans don't unfold as expected. This morning practice creates a foundation of conscious intention that influences how you navigate the entire day. Throughout the day, use challenging situations as opportunities to strengthen your warrior mindset rather than viewing them as problems to avoid. When you notice stress arising, whether from traffic, difficult people, work pressure, or unexpected changes, pause and reframe the situation as training. Instead of thinking, this is terrible, I hate dealing with this, try, this is perfect training for developing my warrior qualities. Ask yourself, how can I use this situation to practice patience, clarity, or creative problem solving? This simple reframe transforms obstacles into allies in your development. When facing particularly challenging interactions, practice what warriors call soft eyes, remaining alert and aware while not hardening against what's happening. You can be strong without being rigid, protective without being defensive. Notice the difference between healthy boundaries and reactive walls. Develop the warrior's relationship with emotions by practicing what could be called emotional aikido, using the energy of emotions skillfully rather than fighting against them or being overwhelmed by them. When strong emotions arise, instead of immediately trying to change or eliminate them, pause and investigate. What is this emotion trying to communicate? If anger arises, perhaps it's pointing toward a boundary that needs to be set or a value that's being violated. If fear emerges, maybe it's highlighting something important that needs attention. If sadness appears, it might be processing a loss or pointing towards something you deeply care about. The warrior doesn't judge emotions as good or bad, they recognize them as information and energy that can guide wise action. Practice saying thank you to difficult emotions instead of resisting them. Thank you, fear, for pointing out potential dangers I should consider. Thank you, anger, for showing me where my boundaries are. Thank you, sadness, for connecting me with what I value. Create a simple practice for responding to setbacks, failures, or unexpected difficulties. Instead of reacting with frustration or defeat, train yourself to pause and ask 3 questions. What can I learn from this? How might this actually serve my growth? What would a warrior do in this situation? This isn't about forcing positive thinking or denying genuine difficulties. It's about developing the capacity to find opportunity within obstacles and maintaining your center even when external circumstances are chaotic. Real warriors throughout history understood that their greatest growth often came through their most challenging experiences. End each day with a brief reflection on how you practiced warrior qualities. What situations triggered reactive patterns? Where did you respond from centered awareness? What did you learn about yourself and how can you apply these insights tomorrow? This isn't about judging your performance, but about cultivating the warrior's commitment to continuous learning and growth. Celebrate moments when you acted from inner strength and view reactive moments as valuable information about areas for development. Learn to recognize the difference between sustainable effort and depleting strain in all areas of your life. The warrior conserves energy for what truly matters rather than scattering it on unimportant battles. Notice what activities, people, and thoughts energize you versus what drains you unnecessarily. Practice saying no to requests that don't align with your values or priorities. This isn't selfishness, it's warrior wisdom about using your resources skillfully. When you take care of your own foundation, you have much more to offer others from a place of strength rather than depletion. Since uncertainty is a constant in life, develop comfort with not knowing how things will unfold. Practice making decisions with incomplete information, taking action without guaranteeing outcomes, and finding excitement in the adventure of not knowing what comes next. When facing uncertain situations, instead of trying to control outcomes, focus on controlling your response. Ask yourself, how can I show up with integrity regardless of what happens? What's the most skillful action I can take with the information I have? This builds the warrior's capacity to remain centered in ambiguity. These daily practices work together to develop authentic mental strength that becomes increasingly natural and sustainable. Rather than requiring willpower to maintain, they eventually become your preferred way of being because they're so much more effective and satisfying than reactive patterns. As your warrior mindset develops, you'll discover deeper levels of integration that transform not just how you handle challenges, but how you perceive reality itself. Advanced warrior development involves refining your understanding of power, redefining success, and developing what could be called spiritual strength, inner qualities that transcend personal limitations. True warrior power isn't the ability to dominate others or control circumstances. It's the capacity to remain centered and responsive regardless of what's happening around you.
This shift in understanding changes everything about how you approach relationships, work, and personal challenges. Advanced warriors discover that their greatest influence comes not from force or manipulation, but from the quality of their presence. When you're genuinely comfortable with yourself and aligned with your deepest values, people naturally feel drawn to your energy. You don't need to convince anyone of anything. Your way of being speaks for itself. This level of development also involves understanding the difference between healthy confidence and ego-driven arrogance. True confidence is quiet and doesn't need external validation, while ego constantly seeks proof of its superiority. The warrior learns to act from confidence while remaining humble enough to continue learning and growing.
As your warrior mindset matures, your relationships naturally transform. You stop trying to change other people and focus on how you can show up more authentically. You set boundaries without building walls, communicate truth without attacking, and remain open-hearted even when others are defensive or aggressive. This doesn't mean becoming passive or allowing others to treat you poorly. The warrior's compassion includes fierce protection of what's sacred, including their own well-being and that of others who can't protect themselves. But this protective quality flows from love rather than fear, creating space for healing rather than escalating conflict. You begin to see difficult people as teachers who help you develop patience, compassion, and skillful communication. This doesn't mean tolerating abuse, but rather learning to respond to challenging behavior in ways that either transform the dynamic or clearly establish appropriate boundaries. In your work life, warrior mindset expresses as leadership that serves rather than dominates, creativity that flows from authentic inspiration, and problem-solving that considers long-term consequences rather than just immediate results. You become someone others trust because they sense your integrity and competence. The warrior approaches professional challenges with strategic thinking, patient persistence, and the flexibility to adapt when circumstances change. You don't take business conflicts personally, but you also don't compromise your values for temporary gains. This balance of strength and wisdom often leads to both personal satisfaction and external success. You learn to view competition as an opportunity to excel rather than as warfare against enemies. The true warrior competes primarily against their own limitations rather than trying to defeat others. This approach often proves more effective than aggressive tactics because it's sustainable and builds rather than burns bridges. The deepest levels of warrior development involve what many traditions call spiritual warrior qualities, inner strengths that transcend personal ego and connect you with something larger than yourself. This isn't necessarily religious, but it does involve recognizing that true fulfillment comes from contributing to life rather than just taking from it. Spiritual warriors develop compassion that includes fierce protection of what's sacred, wisdom that sees beyond surface appearances, and courage that acts from love even when facing fear. They understand that real victory isn't defeating enemies, but transforming conflict into opportunities for growth and healing. This level involves learning to hold paradox comfortably, being strong yet gentle, confident yet humble, protective yet open, decisive yet flexible. These aren't contradictions to resolve, but complementary qualities that create a more complete and effective way of being. Ultimately, authentic warrior mindset evolves beyond personal development into a way of serving life itself. You begin to see your strength not as something you possess, but as something that flows through you to benefit others. Your calm presence helps others find their center. Your clarity helps illuminate confusion. Your courage inspires others to face their own challenges. This doesn't mean becoming a savior or trying to fix everyone else's problems. The warrior serves by example, showing what's possible when someone commits to inner development and authentic expression. You become a lighthouse, steady, bright, and helpful to those who need guidance, but not chasing after ships to force them toward shore. As you embody warrior qualities more fully, you may face resistance from people who are threatened by your growth or who preferred your old patterns. Some relationships may change or end as you stop participating in dynamics that no longer serve you. This can be challenging, but it's also necessary for continued development. The warrior learns to navigate these transitions with compassion for others while remaining true to their own growth. You don't judge people who aren't ready for the level of authenticity you're developing, but you also don't compromise your integrity to maintain relationships that require you to be less than who you're becoming. Remember that developing authentic warrior mindset is a lifelong journey rather than a destination. There will always be deeper levels of integration, new challenges that test your development, and opportunities to refine your understanding. The warrior embraces this endless growth as an adventure rather than viewing it as a burden. The ultimate test of warrior development isn't how you handle dramatic crises, but how you show up in ordinary moments. Can you remain centered during routine frustrations? Do you treat service workers with the same respect you show important clients? Can you admit mistakes without losing confidence? These everyday expressions of warrior qualities are actually the most important measures of authentic development. The final frontier of warrior mindset development involves seamlessly integrating these principles into every aspect of your life until they become as natural as breathing. This isn't about perfection. No true warrior claims to have mastered everything. Instead, it's about developing such familiarity with these principles that you can apply them fluidly in any situation. Advanced integration means you no longer need to remember to practice warrior qualities. They simply emerge naturally because they've become who you are. Your response to morning traffic flows from patience and perspective. Your interaction with challenging colleagues expresses both strength and compassion. Your approach to personal setbacks demonstrates resilience and wisdom. This level of development requires what martial artists call muscle memory, practicing these principles so consistently that they become automatic responses. Just as a skilled musician doesn't think about individual notes while playing a complex piece, the integrated warrior doesn't need to consciously choose their response to most situations because they've trained themselves to respond from their highest qualities. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of integrated warrior development is how your presence naturally influences others. Without trying to teach or convince anyone, your way of being demonstrates what's possible when someone commits to inner development. People notice that you remain calm in situations that stress others, that you speak with both honesty and kindness, and that you seem genuinely comfortable with yourself. This influence happens not through preaching or advice giving, but through authentic example. Your teenager notices how you handle work stress without bringing it home. Your colleagues observe how you navigate conflict without attacking or retreating. Your friends see how you face uncertainty with curiosity rather than anxiety. These observations often inspire others to examine their own patterns and consider new possibilities. Integrated warrior mindset expresses as practical wisdom that knows when to speak and when to listen, when to act and when to wait, when to stand firm and when to flow. This discernment can't be learned from books. It develops through experience, reflection, and continued commitment to growth. You learn to read situations intuitively, sensing the deeper dynamics beneath surface appearances. This allows you to respond appropriately whether you're dealing with a frightened child, an angry customer, a grieving friend, or an overconfident colleague. Your response flows from understanding the deeper need in each situation rather than just reacting to surface behavior. The most profound measure of warrior development is the legacy you create through your choices and actions. This isn't about fame or recognition, but about the positive influence that ripples out from a life lived with integrity and purpose. Every time you choose patience over anger, understanding over judgment, or courage over fear, you contribute to healing the world around you. Your family learns healthier patterns by observing how you handle challenges. Your workplace becomes more positive because of how you interact with others. Your community benefits from your contributions and example. This is the true victory of the warrior path, not conquering others, but transforming your corner of the world through your own transformation. The journey of developing authentic warrior mindset is ultimately about becoming the kind of person you would trust, respect, and want to be around. It's about creating a life that feels deeply satisfying, not because everything goes your way, but because you've learned to dance skillfully with whatever emerges. This path requires dedication, patience, and the humility to keep learning throughout your entire life. But it offers something that external achievements can never provide: the deep satisfaction of knowing that you're living with integrity, contributing to something meaningful, and continuously growing into your highest potential. The warrior mindset isn't just a collection of techniques or strategies, it's a way of being that honors both your strength and your vulnerability, your individual needs and your connection to others, your personal growth and your service to life. When these elements integrate naturally, you discover that true power comes not from controlling life, but from dancing with it so skillfully that every step feels like a creative expression of your deepest nature. Your journey as a warrior continues with each choice you make, each challenge you face, and each opportunity you have to express these qualities in the world. The path is endless, and that's its greatest gift. There's always more depth to discover, more wisdom to embody, and more ways to contribute your unique gifts to the world around you.